Yes, it is a year that ends in an odd number, but despite that, there are elections going on in the United States this year. Virginia and New Jersey both have statewide elections going on, and Virginia, the state where I reside, is what we'll be covering today. This year on the ballot are the governor position, lieutenant governor, and attorney general. Also, all 100 seats in the Virginia, I don't know why I did five there, but that's what felt right. All 100 seats in the Virginia House of Delegates are up for re-election this year as well. For those who don't know, Virginia, like most states, has a bicameral legislature. You have the state Senate, you have the House of Delegates. Senate's not up this year. All 100 seats of the House of Delegates are. Every 2 years, you elect a new delegate, so on and so forth. Pretty self explanatory. Works like the U.S. House of Representatives. Today, I'm starting a little mini series of videos. We're going to focus on the race for governor today. I plan to do a couple more videos, probably one dealing with the lieutenant governor and attorney general races, and then also one dealing with the House of Delegates races as well. All, especially the latter, honestly, very, very important. But we start today with arguably the most important race, that being for governor. So the two nominees for each party are Winsome Sears, who is the Republican lieutenant governor currently, was elected with Governor Glenn Youngkin and Attorney General Jason Miyares back in 2021. And her opponent is former Democrat Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger, formerly of Virginia's 7th District. So, Winsome Sears' platform is as follows. I'll just take a quick side note here before I jump into that. It has been a pretty brutal campaign cycle so far, both sides taking shots at each other, and as it should be, honestly. I mean, there's no reason to play nice when it comes to campaigning. I'm gonna adjust my boom arm here a little bit, make sure that doesn't. I don't think that's gonna go anywhere. Okay, audio's good. So it's really heating up now, though. We're here in October. Today is October 4th, so I think we're exactly a month out, if I'm not mistaken, from the election. So early voting is already going on, and it is absolutely crucial that the GOP hold this seat, and I'll get into that. So into why. Winsome Sears' platform is as follows. A is to continue the economic prosperity Virginia has experienced under popular Governor Glenn Youngkin, and unless otherwise stated, by the way, these are just my synopses, so to speak, of these various positions. These are not straight from her website or anything like that, unless I cite the source, I'll tell you. Glenn Youngkin has brought a lot of jobs to the state, a lot of manufacturing, and there's been a couple big companies building plants here. A lot of economic prosperity coming in Virginia, even with Northern Virginia, Maryland, everything right here. And for those who wonder why Virginia is a Democrat state now after being Republican for so many years, the answer is Nova, Northern Virginia. We call it Nova around here. It's the Washington, D.C. suburbs. Uh, all the governmental bureaucrats that work in D.C. and make a ton of money, they live in Nova, which is why the richest county in the country is up there. And they all vote Democrat. 99% of them that work for the government vote Democrat. I can pretty much guarantee it. But regardless, I mean, there's a significant number of Republicans up there, but not anywhere near enough that you're winning that area outright at all. So conventional wisdom in Virginia is that you campaign in Nova because that's where all the people are, or a bunch of the people are. The problem with that is, yes, that's where a lot of people are, but that's where it's almost exclusively Democrats. Like I said, there's a lot of Republicans by number, but compared to the amount of Democrats up there, it's minuscule. So the rest, if you have Virginia on a map, and if you're looking at me and the map of Virginia is facing me, then Northern Virginia up here in this corner is deep blue. Everything else, the rest of the state, pretty much without exception, there are a few exceptions, but pretty much without exception, the rest of the state is Democrat. I'm going to adjust my microphone here because it keeps slipping down, so I'm going to do that real quick, and that should fix that issue. So what Glenn Youngkin did very effectively in 2021 was he traveled the state and he took his big tour bus and his whole campaign, and they would go to counties that never got visits. They'd come to my area, like the Campbell County, Lynchburg sort of area. They would come to even the far southwest parts of Virginia that no one ever visits because it's very sparsely populated, and it's like 90% Republican down there, but there's just not a lot of people overall. But you have to drive up turnout in those areas to win elections statewide in Virginia if you're a Republican, because you've got to have for a Virginia Republican to win statewide, he has to get super strong turnout from the rest of the state, and Nova turnout has to be somewhat low, and that's what they're going for, obviously, in this election as well. For the majority of this cycle, Winsome Sears has not run a very good campaign, unfortunately. She had, I think, a lot of Nikki Haley affiliates with her early on. She may still have some of them. But over the past couple of months, it's gotten much stronger as the Democrats have made some more mistakes. She's been able to stay out of mistakes for the most part, and she's been able to pounce on their mistakes. And so this is the blitz up to the election now. The ads are going to start being blasted nonstop. Spanberger has been running them for longer than Winsome has because she has a lot more money. Anyway, all that said, the campaign is looking up. Polling has showed the race tightening now. If it was today, I still say Winsome probably loses by 2 to 3 points, but that could change. We'll see what happens. So, her platform, A, was continuing the economic prosperity Virginia has experienced under popular Governor Glenn Youngkin. B, was helping federal law enforcement in illegal alien capturing and deporting efforts. And here, Winsome's website says, quote, as governor, she will end radical policies like catch and release, which is a very good thing, by the way, and ensure, as in ending, it's a very good thing, I should say, and ensure violent criminal illegal immigrants are arrested, detained, and sent back to where they came from. She opposes sanctuary cities and will work alongside the Trump administration to remove those who break our laws and threaten public safety. So, obviously, this needs to be done. Spanberger is very pro illegal immigrant. I'll get more into that in a minute. That needs to be something that we keep putting pressure on the Trump administration, on the state administration, to be deporting people who are here illegally, and stop the Democrats and liberal elites' plan of replacing normal, average white Americans with Hispanics, and not just Hispanics, largely Hispanics, but also from other countries as well. That is their plan. You'll be called racist and a bigot and a fascist and a homophobe and everything else for doing so. Yes, I threw homophobe in there. I don't know why they'd call you that in that scenario, but they usually do anyway. So, the madder they get about it, though, the more you know. You can be sure it's truthful. So, that's the second one. C would be right to work. Again, the website says Winsome is a staunch supporter of Virginia's right to work policy because it is essential to Virginia's economic success. Right to work also protects workers from heavy-handed union bosses, forced dues, and fewer job opportunities. As governor, Winsome will protect Virginia's business and worker-friendly environment that has contributed to our increased job growth, higher wages, and lower unemployment rates. Winsome will never allow Virginia to become Maryland. Huge thing for me here. I was listening to, I think it was Nick Freitas speak at an event a little while back. He was talking about how Spanberger really, truly does want to repeal right to work, and I'll get more into that here in a few minutes when I talk about Spanberger. But that would just be a disaster. Right to work should be the case in all of the country. Trying to force someone to join a union is just absolutely asinine. It's unconstitutional, and it should not be allowed to happen. Here in Virginia, it would make things just significantly worse. I don't understand really why. In the same way, I don't understand, I guess, why you'd ever want your taxes to go up. I don't understand why you'd want someone being able to tell you have to join a union and do this or that and pay these dues. But there's always an argument from the other side, never a good one, same with unions and taxes. But that said, obviously repealing right to work would be a very bad thing. We do not want that here. And then D, pro-biology reality, protecting women and girls in schools and sports from men pretending to be women. So this has been a big focus of the campaign, arguably their biggest issue thus far. Spanberger's on the defense on this issue. Winsome's on offense. They need to keep hammering her on because she is radical on this. As a matter of fact, they just released a little while ago a new ad, which they've been pumping out and need to continue to spend money on and pump out, discussing how radical Spanberger is on the issue. We're going to play that for you now.
How radical is Abigail Spanberger? She didn't just vote to let men in girls' locker rooms. She wrote the bill. Spanberger believes this man has the right to undress next to little girls. But it gets worse. If a child wants to change genders, Spanberger says the parents shouldn't be told. That's insane. Radical Abigail Spanberger is for they, them, not us.
Spanberger is an absolutely radical, far-left lunatic on the issue, as that ad accurately described, and maybe even undersold a little bit, honestly. And I can't even imagine the policies she would enact if she was elected governor. Speaking of which, let's talk a little bit about Spanberger and what she would do. First of all, I think she would usher in Biden-like inflation and money wasting in Virginia through higher taxes. You know those are coming when the Democrats control things. Increased regulations and red tape, especially on businesses, local businesses. I work for a small local business, and it's going to make things much harder on them. And more governmental spending overall. So as with the federal government, when you get more spending and more money printing, inflation goes up. Obviously, Virginia can't just print money, but they will increase spending. They'll raise taxes to pay for it, and you can pretty much guarantee, take it to the bank, no pun intended, that you will not have the nice, tight, neat, fiscally responsible budget that the Youngkin administration and our Republican-controlled House of Delegates for 2 years. But overall, the way both sides have had to work and the budgets Youngkin has signed every year have been pretty decent budgets, and Virginia's been having a surplus, and so you can pretty much kiss that goodbye if Spanberger gets in. Speaking of which, an exact, like a very stark example of that, very good one, is that while Spanberger would absolutely not be this way at all, the Youngkin Sears administration just sent out tax rebates here in Virginia of $200 of single filer, or $200 to single filer Virginians and $400 to those filing jointly. WSLS, a local news outlet, reports since taking office 3 years ago, Governor Youngkin has announced tax rebates for Virginians each year. On Wednesday, he said strong job growth and more than $10 billion in surplus revenue are fueling a record $9 billion in tax relief. That's the way it's done, folks. But not everyone is guaranteed a rebate. It comes down to whether you owed the state taxes last year. To qualify, you must file your 2024 state taxes by November 3rd. If you file before July 1st, Virginia Tax says your rebate will be sent by October 15th and should arrive by the end of October. This is true. I actually already received mine, and it was the $200. So that said, this has been a very surprisingly, honestly, fiscally responsible administration here in Virginia. You can kiss that goodbye once Spanberger gets into office, if she does. Illegal immigration. Spanberger has vowed to end a Youngkin directive to law enforcement in the state to assist in a federal illegal immigration crackdown efforts. I believe it was Executive Order 47 Youngkin signed, and it was directing, again, law enforcement to in the state to help federal agents and federal agencies in illegal immigration crackdown, deportations, etc. Something that absolutely needs to be done as we clean up, as we try to take crime down, as we clean up our voter rolls, which Youngkin has done a fantastic job about getting Virginia's voter rolls clean and ensuring we have some pretty good elections. Honestly, Virginia has one of the best election systems in the country. I've been told, and it would certainly seem that way, and so there's that as well. That really needs to happen. However, Spanberger does not want that kind of thing. She wants the state to be as pro-illegal immigrant as possible, probably wants to make it a sanctuary state up there with California. The Virginia Mercury reports Democratic nominee for Governor Abigail Spanberger says one of her first acts, if elected, would be to undo Governor Glenn Youngkin's February directive requiring Virginia law enforcement to help carry out federal immigration crackdowns, a policy she argues wastes local resources and undermines community trust. I would rescind his executive order, yes, Spanberger told the Mercury in a lengthy policy interview earlier this month, referring to Youngkin's Executive Order 47 issued in February. The order gave state police and corrections officers authority to perform certain immigration duties and also urged local jails to fully cooperate with federal deportation operations. The governor said at the time the measure was meant to keep, quote, dangerous criminal illegal immigrants off Virginia's streets. Spanberger countered that Youngkin's approach illustrates how immigration enforcement can pull local agencies away from their core responsibilities while pushing state agencies into federal civil enforcement. Our immigration system is absolutely broken, she said. The idea that we would take local police officers or local sheriff's deputies amid all the things they have to do, like community policing or staffing our jails or investigating real crimes, so that they can go and tear families apart, that is a misuse of those resources. So number one, she insinuates that for whatever reason, crimes committed by illegal aliens are not real crimes. Number two, it's funny, she says they shouldn't be doing that so they can focus on other aspects of law and order, which Democrats aren't too big on, actually. They seem to be more into that violence kind of thing lately. As a matter of fact, we'll talk about that in the Attorney General race when we get to that in the next video, Lord willing. And so she wants the illegal immigrants to be left free to do their thing, to work in the state, not contribute as they should, obviously take American, in this case Virginian jobs, get health care, probably evade a lot of taxes, etc., and of course, most importantly, vote Democrat. So that's her stance on that. Spanberger would almost certainly try to repeal most or all of Virginia's right to work protections, which I talked about a minute ago when I was talking about Winsome, which would be disastrous for the state and effectively ensure we're the next one to be run by unions. Americans for Tax Reform says this. Since 1947, Virginians have been guaranteed protection from being forced to join or finance a union as a condition of employment. That could all change this November when the state elects a new governor and lieutenant governor. with former Representative Abigail Spanberger running for governor and State Senator Gajala Hashmi for lieutenant governor. Democrats may soon have executive control over the Old Dominion, potentially paving the way for significant changes to worker protections, particularly those related to compulsory union membership. Conservative Virginians should pay close attention to Spanberger and Hashmi, not just when they speak, but when they choose to stay silent. Right to work laws are built upon one incredibly important principle: no person should be forced to financially support or join a union in order to keep their job. This protection emboldens individual freedom in the workplace, incentivizes competition between businesses to provide a safe work environment, and helps attract investment when companies consider expanding or relocating to a new state. States with right to work protections enjoy stronger economic performance and lower unemployment. Across the United States, workers know that choice matters. In fact, only one state, Michigan, has repealed right to work in 60 years. This underscores the popularity of right to work across the country and the vitality of entrenching workers' choice in every state. To that point about them paying attention to them when they're silent, Spanberger has been very, very coy about explicitly saying whether she would repeal right to work. Instead, she's saying she's open to reforms. Right. Her running mate for Lieutenant Governor Gajala Hashmi, who was quoted, or who I'm about to quote and was talked about in that article, has, for all intents and purposes, spoken for Spanberger, that is, when she said that she will, quote, continue to support efforts to repeal right to work at every opportunity. This cannot be allowed to happen in Virginia. You can bet your bottom dollar Spanberger supports this, and even if she isn't brave enough to say so, which does beg the question, why is she afraid to say so? If it's such a great policy and Virginians will like it and it's something that's good for us, why is she so afraid to just come out and support it? Last topic we'll discuss for Spanberger is transgenderism. I already played that ad, which mentioned, although not by name, I think it was HR 5 they cited, but that was the intentionally misnamed Equality Act. Spanberger co-sponsored and voted for this bill, which would have federally mandated that bathrooms and locker rooms and likely even sports teams be able to be accessed based on someone's gender identity, so-called, rather than their sex. It would have also limited religious freedom protections already enshrined into law. So, why did Spanberger vote for and co-sponsor this bill and therefore strongly give her support to it? Obviously, the only answer could be that she does not recognize biological reality. Men cannot become women. Women cannot become men. Men should not be in women's locker rooms. Women should not be in men's locker rooms. Certainly, men should not be in little girls' locker rooms and vice versa as well. This is one of the issues that fueled Youngkin's campaign in 2021, actually. It was the Loudoun County situation where the school tried to cover up that one student raping the other. I think it was a transgender situation as well. So, I mean, it's something the Democrats cannot let go of because of how radical they've groomed their base into being, so to speak. But they have to if they're going to ever win again. Therefore, I hope they don't. To me, the choice in November is undeniably clear, with some conservatives, while they have complained, and fairly in my opinion, that Winsome is not a super strong candidate. I agree. I don't know who he would have nominated that would have been better than her. It's true Winsome and her campaign may have their flaws, but when it's down to her and an actual communist, who, by the way, Spanberger took $50,000 in a donation from a Chinese Communist Party affiliated donor. So, I mean, she's literally beholden to communists. She is a communist herself. People wonder what the practical effects of that would be. That's not hard to imagine in my mind. How about if that long-awaited bill finally comes up in the Virginia legislature to ban Chinese corporations, companies, government, etc. from purchasing farmland in Virginia or just land in general in Virginia, passes the House and Senate? How do you think Spanberger is gonna? Do you think she's gonna sign that bill or veto it if it's hurting and ticking off her communist friends in China? But when it's down to Winsome or an actual communist in Spanberger, Winsome's flaws just aren't anywhere near bad enough that I would consider not voting for her. There's too much at stake in November, Virginia. There just is. We need to vote to save our state. In the next episode, I plan on discussing the Attorney General and Lieutenant Governor races, which are the other two statewide races in Virginia this year. They're also important. And the crucial, and these are arguably even more important than any statewide race, including governor, the crucial House of Delegates races here in Virginia. Democrats currently have a 51-49 majority in the Virginia House of Delegates, and if they do retain the majority, then in November 2026, we are going to have constitutional amendments on the ballot for us to vote on, which will, among other things, make Virginia pretty much the most radical state in the country when it comes to restrictions on abortion or the lack thereof. and that is regrettably very likely to pass because the GOP is so bad at fighting ballot amendments. Gotta flip the House of Delegates this year, and I will get into that more in a future video. So please subscribe and then watch when those come out, because you need to be informed and motivated to vote and keep our state from becoming the East Coast California. Feel free to share this video with others who also need informing or motivating to get out and vote. Early voting is going on now. Election day is, I believe, November 4th. If it could be the 6th. I think it's the 4th though. So just look it up, check it. It's always the first Tuesday in November. So just check, make sure, and in the meantime, we're going to keep fighting. We're going to try to keep our state. Remember, Proverbs 25:26.